I've spent the last 9 months of my life building a video game reseller app, and as of today, it is an actual physical downloadable thing on my phone. The only problem is, this is everything that's wrong with it. No ability to make payments, missing batch completion screen, no images associated with the game result, 404 error on the back-end system, price results screen needs reordering, have to grant camera access every time subscription button is no broken. Explanation for open batches are not transferring to complete. Terms of sale email text needs incomplete, payment load time or camera scan picture doesn't match the wasn't conditions need users aren't prompted to add their receiving. And folks, the scariest thing about this whole process is I've already spent an ungodly amount of money developing this thing, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But our goal for today is to get Spanky signed up on the desktop version of the app, because the craziest thing is all of these problems came just from the mobile version. Okay, so Spanky, what'd you just notice about the sign up process? Okay, hold on, wait, unhighlight it. What does it look like when it's... That's maybe something worth changing right there. And that is one more thing for the problem board, folks. We are already on a roll today. So the overall launch of this bad boy is going to take place in 3 stages. The first one, which you guys are hopping in straight to the beginning of, is internal testing. This is just Spanky and I testing everything out, trying to break stuff. This I'm hoping will take 1 to 2 weeks before we go to beta testing. First with a group of like 6 other video game resellers that I know personally, and then with our video game reseller Discord and anyone who has sent us stuff and done deals with us through our buy list program, which this whole app, which we'll talk about again, is basically a version 2.0 of. I'm hoping, this is a stretch goal, I don't know if it's realistic, hoping that takes 2 to 3 weeks. A lot of apps, this process takes months, so we'll see. And then last but not least, once all of the beta testing is done and all of the features are finished, we will have our public launch, which I'm hoping will happen maybe late February, but again, we'll see. But before I get into the features that we really need active at each one of these stages, I should probably actually tell you guys what the heck this thing does. So I've been flipping video games for 4 years now, and for a long time I've been a little bit frustrated with how inconvenient it is to make buying decisions on games, because you often have to check multiple platforms to really get a clear picture of market value, like eBay, Amazon, and PriceCharting.com. And about 9 months ago, I was complaining to editor Riff about how I'd like to be able to check all 3 simultaneously. And he challenged me to stop whining about it and actually do something, so I got to work. I believe that ideas are a dime a dozen, but what actually counts is execution. So I pride myself on being the kind of person that has a very short period between when I have an idea I believe is great and when I do something about it. So this is my official video saying that I am gonna try to make that app. The only problem is I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. And so true to that belief, within a month, I had hired both a marketing team and a development team to try to build this thing, and I was off to the races. So, oh yeah, this was the best part, look at this. On a phone, this is how the app could look. The only problem was I didn't grasp at the time what this app would end up being and didn't have a full picture of the primary feature of it until a couple months later. See, originally, I wanted the app to do 3 things. Show market prices for games, estimate the fees that you can expect to pay on those games by platform, and make it easier to create bundles of games for bulk purchases and be able to see the value of a whole lot at once. But the thing is, that all changed 2 months into development in July when we released our buy list program. This right here is our buy list. It's a list of 800 games and handhelds that are pretty common that we pay really well for. And when this program started, I didn't really publicize it that much. I pretty much only talked about it on my second channel, but we instantly had dozens of resellers who were selling us stuff every week. And it was that month that I realized that checking prices is great, but being able to allow people to skip all the most tedious parts of flipping games, the photos and the listings and waiting for things to sell and item details and customer service, pretty much puts flipping video games on easy mode. So I renamed the buy list program Quick Flips and made it the #1 priority for development for our app going forward. All right, folks, so it's the next day now. We're gonna check back in with Spanky on whether he's found any more problems with the desktop version of the app. Oh, he's getting nice and close there.
What I've liked here is actually a good marketing strategy. So we've got 1UP Premium for $50 a month, and then we've got just premium for $27 a month. What I think that's going to do is let a lot of people see that, oh, I don't want to splurge, so the $27 a month is a steal, and they'll sign right up.
You guys remember that list of all the problems that we wrote on the board yesterday? Well, we sent those all off to my development team of 4 people, and the lead developer, Josh, literally the same day had either addressed or fully resolved look at this list here. We've got all of these little check marks for, I broke it up into function and aesthetics. And look at this, he's made notes on every single one of them. He's been an absolute machine, which gives me a whole lot of confidence. My confidence overall in the team that I selected to build this thing has been growing over time, which I think is a really good sign. But folks, to have all of these things that are on the nasty side of this board, already either taken care of or being looked at actively, what a huge relief. But folks, unfortunately, speaking of problems, I've also been playing around with the desktop version a little bit, and there are a few things that I've spotted. The first problem was that search was a little bit janky and didn't always show the most relevant search results. We had put some filters on search so that when it interfaces with price charting, it excludes all their results that might be from the trading cards category or comics or other collectibles that they track. But those filters were also excluding some of the relevant games that we wanted, like Emperor's New Groove. On top of that, while our camera scan feature was accessible on desktop if you had a webcam, mine didn't have settings to view items that close up and therefore couldn't read the barcodes.
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's Groove.
I also noticed that while all the base menu buttons were responsive when I hovered over them, the corner menu was not, and it made me wonder while using it whether that button was actually working. Is this button broken? On top of that, the search instruction text was red and kind of looked like an error message. The logout button was pink and honestly just needed to be moved to the corner menu. And there was too much of our signature Arcadia font clustered up on the search screen. Arcadia is just, it's a little bit much. All right, folks, so now that I've gotten our new round of problem feedback back to Josh, the developer, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this process as a whole and how my expectations of developing an app have differed from the reality of making an app. And I'll be honest, I documented the entire process of, start to finish, having the idea to finding a developer to crystallizing the vision for it. And I posted all of those videos in a delayed fashion, just starting last month or so on my second channel. And looking back at some of them is a little bit cringy because of how ignorant I truly was. Now, I want to go through cost, process, timeline, and reception and the differences in my expectations and reality of all of those. We've got to start by talking about cost, folks, because it might be the most embarrassing. I thought because of what the initial developer that I talked to estimated that the total cost of OneUp would be $20,000. In retrospect, this is laughably small. In reality, what I think I will end up paying is in the neighborhood of $130K for the app as a whole, and that includes both development and marketing. I spent $12K on the marketing team to develop the name, logo, messaging, design package, etc. And then the rest of that is all the development cost. The initial budget that I got, so the first person that I talked to at a much smaller development firm who doesn't really do large projects like these very much, was $8K for the development, which I don't know if he was just a really optimistic guy or maybe he was as naive as I was, but that's just nowhere near what it ended up costing. I then moved, and we'll talk about this a little bit in the process part. I switched developers once I realized what the scope of this app was going to be, and they told me conservatively, this is gonna cost 75 to 80K, and then as we sort of discovered together, there's a whole process of app development called discovery. They were like, yeah, in reality, this is going to be 85 to 120. That's pretty much where we're landing. Plus the 12K for design costs puts us at around 130. That's not a final number. And that's only for version 1. That's not for future feature development. And by the way, I do want to say as big of a difference as this is, the app is fully funded right now, and I didn't take any outside investment to do it. So as scary as this is, we're done like scrimping and saving and putting funds aside from the regular business to fund this, and I don't regret it. I still believe that this app has a lot of potential to change the way that video game resellers source for games, and I really believe if I had gone the safe route and not done this at all, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life and wondered what could have happened if I would have tried to create something that just doesn't exist in the market. So really glad that I did it this way. I didn't take on outside debt because that just would have been an extra layer of stress if I not only wasn't sure if this thing wasn't going to work, but also wasn't sure if I would have to pay off $100K in debt to some outside investor the whole time. That's just a personal philosophy of mine. In terms of my expectations for the process, this is a big question mark because I was very conscious from the beginning. I had absolutely no idea what to expect. I know pretty much what to expect at this point from flipping video games and from making YouTube videos. But when it comes to making an app, man, I had absolutely no idea. And the reality has been that developing an app is pretty much a series of problems. Some of the first problems that I encountered was one, changing developers when I realized that the first one that I had contacted, even though they have a good reputation locally, they're just not equipped to handle a project of this scale. So I had to interview multiple other companies again. And the crazy thing is, I interviewed probably 3 or 4 and had actual Zoom meetings and got full estimates for the scope of the project. I ended up going with the one that was the most expensive. Money, that. And that's something that if any of you happen to find yourself in the process of developing some kind of software in the future, I'm so freaking glad I did. Not because of the cost, but because I went with them because they gave me the biggest sense of peace of mind. Not only that I would own all of the code that they were developing for me, but also I called all of their references and they all raved about how good this company is to work with. And I'm really glad that I ponied up the extra money because now we're in crunch time and our issues are getting resolved like within days, which is not, I didn't expect it to go that smoothly on the development side. APIs, so you guys know part of the initial scope of the app was to be able to see price charting, Amazon and eBay data all at once. Right now we're limited to just price charting and quick flips offers. When people look up games, I think by the time we launch publicly, we will also have Amazon. But dude, getting access to Amazon's data and eBay's data, or in tech lingo, basically their APIs, has just, it was such a headache, such an application process. Weirdly enough, Amazon in this case was actually easier to work with than eBay, which is probably the first and only time I will ever say that. There have also been There have also been, as I mentioned before, budget changes over the scope of the project as we realized exactly how much we need to get done. That's pretty standard. And then there are also mini problems along the way, especially once you get into the later stages of development, such as the hamburger menu doesn't change when you hover over it and are thinking about clicking on it. This is basically all of the things that we've been submitting back to Josh over the last couple days, and will probably continue not only through internal testing and beta testing and public launch, but through the entire life of the app when random bugs come up and we implement new features and it breaks something else. That's just like, even with a massive company like Whatnot that has millions of dollars of venture tech money behind them, they put out new features and accidentally break stuff, and streams will go down and servers will die. So it'd be arrogant of me to expect that these mini problems, or sometimes moderate sized problems, are just gonna go away once we have a good version 1. In terms of timeline, I was really hoping initially that this thing could be done and released by Q4, and that we could be done with beta testing and public launch maybe like in October. In reality, and that would have been like 5 months, in reality, it's gonna be 9+ months in hopefully February, but honestly, maybe March. And by the way, apologies if it's been a while since I posted a video, because I think this one is going to take a really long time to make.
Yes, extremely long.
By the end of this video, you guys will know exactly when it does end up launching. Currently, it is January 18th, and I'm anticipating maybe another 5 weeks of internal and beta testing. Then the final thing here is the public reception. Now, I expected this to be generally positive, especially because the videos that I was making of the process going along, all the way back from like May and June and July, those were only getting posted on the second channel. And they've only been posted within the last month or so, because I didn't want people latching onto the idea and then going and building their own thing. I wanted to give myself plenty of a head start to get something really cool built. And the reality of the reception, well, I guess it would be easier to show you than to tell you. As a seasoned reseller myself, I honestly can't see anyone other than novices using this, as they wouldn't know for something from someone who isn't established in everything your app is supposed to do already exists for free. Nobody's gonna pay a monthly cost ruining the community one app at a time. Pay people for this? My advice: AI bot will make better logos. Take your loss. This will be a financial disaster. You're doing a great job with the app. Keep it up. You know, honestly, I'd say it's pretty good. So folks, it's been about 5 days since you last saw me, and a whole lot has happened. The first big thing is that we now have a Discord associated to OneUp and the beta test that we are currently doing. Or I guess the devs are technically calling it an alpha test, because right now we only have 4 developers and like 5 or 6 previous Discord mods that I know personally who are testing this thing out. And the feedback that we've gotten has been absolutely fantastic. We've got a whole tab here, one for things to fix, which we have like kind of a ticketing system of a whole bunch of different items that, guess what, need fixing. And then also a feature request tab, in addition to like general chat and all the things that you would normally see in a Discord. So that has been super helpful with cataloging and making progress on having discussions on different things that are wrong with this dang app. The second thing is the app itself has had a ton of improvements. I already told you guys the developers have been going ham on these minor fixes and also just strategically thinking about the things that are wrong on the macro. One of the things that we implemented here is this Quick Flips offers screen so that you can see what we're paying for an item, not just by like looking it up manually and typing it in or scanning the barcode, but you can also just sort by console here and see, hey, I wanna see all of the GBA games that they're buying right now and what prices they're paying relative to condition for January, for example. And looks like for some reason it's not actually, it's saying we're only buying 4, and I do not know why. So that's another thing that we'll have to add to the list of things to fix, but the good news is you can now sort it by month because we change our prices once every month. And a big part of the value of the Quick Flip system as opposed to the old buy list system is now we're able to accept more conditions. So you can see here, if we look at 3DS games, we can buy these games in every single condition: new, complete, missing manual, and even loose prices. We don't offer loose prices for disc-based games, but on pretty much every console we do offer more. Oh wow, we have a good number of consoles, it looks like, on this list as well that are like international that we don't necessarily need. But this is the kind of thing that like the more we play around with it, the more tickets need to be added. And the problem with this whole process for me psychologically, especially in this last week, is that it seems like the more things get fixed, the more problems also come up. So we've got our big problems board over here. And let's find one that has email text needs revision. This one's already done, so we get to cross that off of the problems list. But at the same time, we're also getting more and more tickets from the people who are testing this and problems that we're discovering ourselves that just go and get added to the problems list. And it feels like for every problem that is resolved, another 3 pop up. So it's been a very psychologically chaotic week. I don't think my developers are as fazed by it because this is very much a normal part of the process, but I'm not sure how this will end up impacting the overall timeline for, one, how long it's going to take us to get an actual beta test going with all the people who are currently using our buy list program, and 2, how long after that starts we'll actually have a version that I'm confident in enough to actually go to market. So I'll keep you guys informed of the problems that are coming up and the things that are getting resolved. I'll let you in on one right now, because let me show you this. This is our back-end system for tracking all of the prices that we are offering through Quick Flips, through our wholesale program. This is our very glamorous spreadsheet over here. And this has, you can see, a whole bunch of columns for our prices relative to different conditions, the console, and this is the little nasty part, this nasty little column right here, the UPC. Why does the UPC matter? Because the UPC is what, if eventually we have a feature where we're looking a game up on multiple platforms like Amazon and eBay and like price charting all at once, the only way that we can feasibly do that is through looking at the UPC code. But here's the problem. Multiple games, as we come over here, either don't have a UPC code in general if they, for example, were only sold as a bundle, like a Skylanders game, for example, right? That disc itself is not going to have a UPC code, and therefore is going to be much more difficult for a program to look up on multiple platforms at once. In addition to that, you also have to consider these bad boys, which up until now on the buy list program have not been an issue. These are greatest hits or Nintendo Selects versions. You can see that across consoles, these people, these Sony and Nintendo and Microsoft, they love to make stupid little versions. We don't have an example here, but Platinum Hits is another one. That's the same game, but in different packaging, and the worst part is, some of them have the same UPC across multiple versions, and some of them have different UPCs. For example, Mario Kart 64, you can see if you zoom in here, this is the player's choice version, but this game has the same UPC as a non-player's choice copy of this game. So it's not actually an issue in the system. But the frustrating thing is, when it comes to Wii games, this has a different UPC, a different barcode code on the back, Universal Product Identifier, than its counterpart, which is the exact same game on the same system, but just has a little bit of a different cover here. So what we have to do is manually go and figure out for each system, are there multiple UPCs or just one UPC for the same game that are different versions, and how are we going to code that? Is there a way to systematically calculate for that? Are we going to have to add everything individually as a separate listing, just the greatest hits version of Mario Strikers Charged, and all the data is the same, including the prices and the console and everything except for the UPC? I don't know. That's like probably one of the biggest problems on our freaking problem list right now, and you guys are gonna have to stay tuned to figure out if I go fully insane or whether I'm able to maintain a few brain cells of sanity in trying to resolve these dang issues, and why is making an app so much harder than I thought it would be. Folks, I just had a 2-hour semi-emergency meeting with the development team, my 2 developers and the project manager, banging our heads against the wall trying to figure out what to do about this UPC issue that's been giving us so many headaches. And at this point, we have a solution. We have a couple solutions to a couple problems that are there that I think might work. In reality, we don't know. Burning through money every day, and I've been thinking about this, and I just wanted to throw the camera on and bring you guys into, like, if anyone out there is thinking about building a business, you might be a little bit at risk, because you might look at my channel and see me like going to conventions, having a good time, throwing thousands of dollars around, buying a bunch of inventory, hanging out with Riff and Retro Rick, and think, man, this is like a pretty glamorous thing this guy's doing. And maybe one day you'll see me with a sleek app that does what it's supposed to and feels good to use. And you might think, man, this like seems like a pretty sweet gig, but I just need to show you, like, this is what it actually takes. This is what 99% of the journey so far has been. It's been spreadsheets that I'm going through one by one with error after error that need to be fixed in this thing. And it's softwares that even after 9 months still aren't behaving the way that they're really supposed to. And it's Discord servers with things to fix channels that seem to go on forever and ever. Like, this right here is what building a business actually entails. And I wanted to turn the camera on and capture this. You know what the worst part of all of this is that at the end of the day, I just don't know whether anything will come of it. Like, I'm putting hours and weeks and months of my life into this thing, not to mention $140,000 and counting. And as we saw looking at the feedback earlier, most people out there, it seems, don't even think this thing's going to work. And folks, honestly, like, I still think it will. I do. I still think that it's a good idea and will provide a lot of value to a lot of people. But at the end of the day, on the chance that this thing does work out and becomes something great, I needed to record this moment so that I and you can look back and remember what was actually required to get there. Okay, folks, so it's been a couple days now since our little dark night of the soul we had together, and since then, Spanky and I have been super hard at work. We've been putting in all of this data, going through every single game that we buy on the buy list program and just checking when you search it in OneUp, does it come up? About 10% of the games or so had some sort of wonkiness associated with them, either like maybe we fat-fingered the UPC and it wasn't pulling up right, or maybe the UPC was for the wrong version of the game and when you search it, it didn't bring it up. So anyway, I went through yesterday and fixed literally all of those, so I think they should all be good for regardless of whether you scan a barcode or you look it up in the search feature, bringing up our Quick Flips price, which is great. The other thing over here is as we were doing all of that data entry and banging our heads against the wall, the developers were hard at work fixing some stuff about the site and about the mobile version. One thing that you'll notice up here, guess what? No ugly log out button anymore. Love to see it. And then if you come to this other corner over here, the hamburger menu, guess what happens when you hover? Oh, it responds. Love to see it. And even when you bring it up, remember how it used to be that you have to press the X to click out of it rather than just clicking anywhere else on the screen? Well, guess what? Not anymore. They fixed that too. I love seeing all of these little changes come together because I think these small tweaks is just what will make the site and the mobile version feel super fluid and satisfying to use. Now, the last big thing on here that you may notice and you may be like, wait a second, what is happening here? We changed one of the base menu options. This down here used to be collection and now it's home. So you may be wondering, wait, what the heck, Caleb? Where'd it go? Can I not track my collection on here anymore? And the reason that we did this, first of all, yes, you can. You just need to go into lots because essentially, effectively, a collection is just a lot. It's just named something else. There's no additional features associated with it. So from now on, people's default first lot, whether they're on the free version or the premium features, will be my collection. We didn't really need an extra tab, and I had a great conversation with Alex in the Discord, who's been helping us alpha test this thing, about how we don't necessarily want to signal to people with a huge tab right on the main menu that collection tracking is the primary value of this app, because in reality, you guys know just by looking at it, this thing's still a baby. It is in its infancy, and for the first probably at least year, we're not gonna be focusing on adding collection features. And right now, as it is, there are a bunch of other collecting apps out there that help you track your collection and give you more data than we're giving you at this point. So we don't necessarily want to invite that comparison by having collection positioned so prominently on the home screen. So we're keeping all of the functionality, but instead just moving it into the lots feature, which I think is much more distinctive and much more tailored specifically to resellers who are our primary demographic for this thing. Folks, the most satisfying part about this process by far has been getting to cross things off of this ticketing system here in Discord that we have. This is actually, I didn't anticipate this, but this has been really fun. One thing that I actually just crossed off that I wish I would have shown you is this search feature. So this is what search used to look like in OneUp. And I was looking at it the other day and was like, okay, we've got search here. The default text here is search for a game when you're not looking at like 3DS Aqua. And then we have this text here explaining to you what a search is and does. And I was just like, is that really necessary? That seems kind of like overkill. So I was like, I put in a ticket for let's take out this search text here and also this little loading bar, and I think it'll help it look cleaner. And lo and behold, in the update that they just pushed out last night, this is what search currently looks like on the site, on the desktop version. Oh my gosh, so much cleaner. I absolutely am loving this. One of those little changes that I think really adds up. Going forward, I have a meeting scheduled with the development team in literally 23 minutes where we're going to talk about the final steps, the list of non-negotiable items that we have to have in place that aren't yet in place before we can put out the beta test to all of the people who are currently using the buy list program, which I believe, I mean, we've got 900 people on that email list. I would guess it will lead to at least dozens, if not over 100 new users. So we really have to kind of batten the hatches and tighten up everything that we possibly can before we push that out. But I'll update you guys after that's done on how close we actually are to that point. Okay, so folks, just got out of the meeting with the 1UP team, and it's mostly good news. The first piece of it is that we're down to literally 3 things in the things to fix Discord, which at this point just feels so amazing. One big thing that they were working on was the kind of wonkiness with the search feature in 1UP when you were looking things up by title right here. We were getting all kinds of different results depending on how many characters were typed in. And that specifically was a huge thing that I wanted done before the beta test actually starts. The not really bad news, but more time-consuming news is that in order to figure out this UPC issue, we're gonna have to do 2 things. One is allow people to create custom items to add to their collection or to their lots. What this is gonna do is basically give you a manual option if you really want to designate in your own collection that, hey, this is the player's choice version and it's only worth this much. You can do that at least manually.
All right, Editor Riff here, jumping in to say that custom feature has actually been super beneficial for me and my buddy Ricky. We're collecting the entire NES set together on YouTube, and we're not only collecting like the typical NTSC stuff, we're collecting a lot of like fan-made games or homebrews or weird stuff like that. So with the app, we get to go to that custom feature right here, there, boom, add it in, and then we're adding it. And so we're also able to collect the stuff we want that's not stereotypical NES stuff. So gotta just jump in and say it's awesome.
The harder question is going to be what to do about single games that have multiple UPCs, and for that they're going to have to create a totally different database infrastructure that's more sophisticated. It involves certain kinds of like product mapping and things that I don't understand, and that's probably going to take like a few days or so. But the end goal is to basically allow people to scan either Fire Red or Fire Red Player's Choice version, and both of them will come up with not only a price charting value for probably the standard version, but also our quick flips offer, because that is the most serious feature that we want to really hone in on this app. Now, our current estimation for when we'll be able to push this thing to our beta group of, dozens or maybe over 100 people is this next Friday. Originally, it was like some Friday in freaking December, over a month ago. It keeps getting pushed back and pushed back, which a lot of people would probably be frustrated by, but the reason that I'm not frustrated is I've been really happy with the rate at which the team at Apex has been resolving these issues, especially given that a big reason that these issues have come up so late in the game is just my own ignorance and really having no idea what building this thing would entail going into it. But I have to say, overall at this point, I'm feeling very optimistic because it feels like we're making a lot of progress, and that feels great. So folks, it's been a few days since we last chatted, and at this point I have good news and bad news regarding our little software friend. The good news is I was looking at this board the other day. So many of these problems in the last week and a half have already been resolved, right? Like this camera not matching the aspect ratio of the frame is done. We've got invoice attaches to the PDF. Amazon data we're still working on. There are a few things on here like, my hairline is still currently receding, haven't fixed that. I am still losing my mind. But look at this, even some of the issues that we just had a few days ago of no quick flips batch minimums, this one is already solved. Can't delete lots is already solved as well. I'm ruining the blackness of this pen right now. No ability to make payments. We just installed a PayPal address screen. The 404 error is gone. Missing batch completion screen is fixed as well. Folks, the developers have been going ham on this list. But folks, the paradox with this whole process is even though we've gotten so many of these issues resolved, honestly, the majority of them in the last couple weeks, more problems continue to come up the more we test this thing. For example, just yesterday, I was out and about buying games, as I do, and was testing the barcode scanning feature a whole bunch because this is going to be a big time save for people who don't want to manually look everything up, and realize that if you get in close here, 1, this window is super tiny. 2, when I tried to maximize the barcode space here by going vertical and just shifting this game sideways, it never reads. So you actually have to kind of unintuitively put it right side up, even though this window is absolutely tiny. And then even when you do, it takes a solid 4 or 5 seconds to read, all of which is not exactly optimal. And that example was actually a little bit better than I've experienced in the past. Let's see if we do it again, because one problem that I'll have is sometimes it focuses on the wrong camera. Yeah, look at that. Like it's completely blurry because it's using the wrong one of the 3 iPhone cameras on the back here. That's another thing that I just don't know how to fix. My workaround currently is I'll make it go super close and then kind of come back out, and look at that, now it's working, just to try to fix it. But that's not the kind of workaround that we want people to have to do to just use the scanning feature. And this is the kind of issue, I have no idea if there even is a solution, or if it's just like, that's how the camera is when you're using it from an external app. All of the other like sourcing apps that have a scan feature that I've tried, besides the Amazon seller app, are pretty wonky. So I don't know if this is the kind of thing we actually can improve, although I was thinking, I don't know if we actually have one of these somewhere in here, but back from my book selling days, I used to have this external barcode scanner that was attached by Bluetooth to my phone that would allow me to scan a ton of book ISBNs all at once. Hey, I found some extra Expo markers, that's kind of cool. Anyways, it basically looked kind of like this thing, and this one actually is wireless as well. Maybe we could hook this up, and I figured that could be a decent workaround for our people, for our users who need the most efficiency in their scanning process. But that's, of course, I'm gonna blind myself here. But folks, all of that is actually dependent on whether, this is another issue that I haven't even written down yet, optimizing our scanner, potentially prompting people to, use their external barcode reader, and this bulk scan feature that I just add, which we already have as a ticket in the Discord. This all falls into the bucket of just like quality of life improvements to make people who use this app most as efficient as we possibly can. Some of these may be items that we continue working on through the beta and maybe even after the launch, because the good news is, the other good news, in addition to all this stuff being solved, is that the search feature that I was using a ton yesterday in store was working really well. So let's see if it actually does. We've got new Super Mario Bros. Wii. Let's see. Nice, look at that. See, first result, and there's our price charting, our quick flips offer. That pretty much across the board was working really well for me yesterday, which gives me a little bit of hope that we at least have a solid baseline of functionality to start beta testing with, which I'm really happy about. Folks, the other super exciting thing is that I believe later this week, we may have our first ever quick flips submission through the app. One of our current alpha testers, Devin, is, I think as we speak, working on a batch to send to us through the app, not through the previous buy list program. But I did want to take this time to just thank all of you guys out there who are our current buy list partners. Your support through this process and like sending us inventory consistently has literally been what's allowed me to put so much time and effort into this app and less time like out and about sourcing for stuff. And this package right here is a great example from Dylan. Thanks a but, like, look at this. This is a $1,200 order of all what looks like really great condition stuff. Dylan, I hope that you and our other buy list partners more than anything are thrilled with this app. I'll be honest with you guys, as the feedback for the development process of this thing has been mixed on a good day, I've had to remind myself a lot that like, I don't need everyone to like OneUp, but I really want a few people, our buy list partners that send us this stuff, to love it. So really hope that you guys do, and I'm really grateful for those of you who have stuck with us through this process. Now folks, easily one of the most consistent criticisms of OneUp has been the price. Because at this point, the primary value prop of the app is allowing resellers to wholesale their video games for really good prices really quickly. But because we're also able to make profit when we take that inventory and buy it and then flip it, it's led a lot of people to say, dude, why do you have a subscription model in the first place? Like, aren't you just charging your partners now to do business with you? And I knew going into it that that would be a hesitation, understandably, for a lot of people. So I dedicated an entire video to it on the second channel, but here are the cliff notes. The first thing is, I originally thought the subscription cost of this thing was gonna be $50 a month, which is very premium. Somewhere along the way, we decided to reduce it to $25 a month, mostly because the feature set that we're launching with is different than the scope that I had initially envisioned for the app, which we've talked about already. That said, we are keeping the subscription model in place for 2 reasons. The first one is just financial, that I want 1UP to be financially sustainable and to have consistent income to be able to not only pay for like maintenance and bug fixes and support, but also to be able to develop new features, because I want 1UP to be constantly improving and offering new cool things to video game resellers. And also having a price gate, having that subscription model is really useful for keeping out bad users, the kind of riffraff that would just be looking to use 1UP in exploitative ways, either by like selling us junk or manipulating invoices or things like that. Price gates are a great way to ensure that you have really good users. Now, that said, we also have implemented multiple different measures to make sure that our partners are not hurt by the subscription model. The first one is that we're now not only buying more games and offering higher prices than we previously did with the buy list, which I hope will allow all of our users to flip more games and make more money quicker, but we also invented a brand new free membership system where our partners can, just by selling us inventory over time, unlock free months and eventually a lifetime free subscription just by selling stuff to us. On top of that, we also gave all of the people who had already sent us batches through the old buy list program multiple free months of 1UP, so hopefully they can start earning those free months so quickly that they never even get charged for 1UP in the first place. And then on top of that, not only did we add a free membership tier so anyone can try 1UP out and kind of figure out what it's about for totally free, but we also added a money back guarantee for the people using the premium tier for the first time, so anyone who's not happy with it can just have their money back. I hate the idea of any of the viewers of this channel paying me for something that they don't end up getting more value from. And ultimately, I believe that all of those little things combined will make it so that 2 things happen. 1, 1UP has the maximum chance of being financially sustainable, and 2, that our regular partners are really happy with it. I've gotten great feedback on it so far, but ultimately, you guys know, I don't know what I'm doing, so this whole system could look different in 6 months. We'll see. Folks, it's been about 5 days since we last talked and wanted to give you a little update. We were supposed to today be going into the Apex office, the developer's office, to do final testing of the app, like live in person. We bring a box of games and test a bunch of stuff out. That didn't end up working out just because of scheduling stuff. We tried to get it done last minute, so that's getting bumped to, a couple days from now, which is not the worst thing, honestly. It gives me a little bit of time to do some of this. Today for me was a huge tax day. I've realized that having 2 different businesses, like the resale side and now a separate one for app-related concerns, makes taxes a lot more complicated, so had to spend most of the day doing that, and at 7:45 now I'm just getting to some of this stuff, but I figured I might as well show you. So this is our condition guidelines page on the desktop version of the app. It's not bad, but as you can see, it's a little bit hard to read and just doesn't look all that great. So I decided to do a version 2.0 over here just in Word with some better headers, better line spacing, and a whole bunch of bullet points with just cleaned up text to make everything easier to read, easier to understand. That might seem like kind of an insignificant marginal change, but in reality, anything that I can possibly do to ensure that people actually read this when they're signing up and going through the initial education is going to save us a bunch of headaches in the long run. The other thing that I wanted to update you guys on is a couple days ago, we just had our first live stream in a long time on our second channel, Renix P-Sale, just opening up games and answering questions. And going into it, I was honestly kind of nervous, just given the state of the comments on all of the update videos that I've been posting there and how it kind of feels like there aren't that many people who actually believe in this thing like I do. But I'll tell you, man, that live stream really lifted my spirits. It really felt like almost nothing but positivity. There were multiple people in there who were active and saying that they're really looking forward to this app and believe that it can be successful. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir a little bit in a live stream audience, but it was just a little sort of emotional turning point in this process where I realized, all right, there are, in addition to the, mods in my Discord and the people people that I know in the industry, there are other people out there who are in this space who are still believing in what this app could be. So anyway, we'll see how long this emotional high lasts before I'm convinced again that this entire thing is doomed to fail. Right now, I'm gonna go hang out with Erica for a couple hours before bed, and we'll catch up with you guys hopefully in a couple days when we're doing final testing before this beta. All right, Spanky, what are you up to right now?
I am collecting some games, some various games to take to the 1UP app developer's office down the road here to see if this daggum thing will work.
Folks, today may be the day. Knock on wood here. We're gonna go take a whole bunch, maybe like 30, 40 games for final quality testing with the 1UP development team on site. If everything goes well, if this thing doesn't break in some new and unexpected way, then today may be the day that we get to push it out to our beta testers, dozens or possibly hundreds of people. It is just all gonna depend on whether this little 9-month software can hold up with all of us putting it through the ringer. All right, so folks, we are here on site doing the final, maybe not final, quality testing, and we got all of our games spread out here. Right now, one of our developers made this nice list of like different personas to like specifically test out to try to gain data on like the user experience of different kinds of people who are going to be using 1UP. I picked out Rare Game Robert, and I'm trying to emulate all of these characteristics as I'm like going through and setting up a new account and everything. And one thing that I realized is that Rare Game Robert has 5 new copies of Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut. And here's what happens when I go to remove different items. I'll like click this bottom one here and wait a second, this top one's selected, and wait a second. So I clicked it again and now it's good, but what if I click it again? Oh, that one went away, and I could try this and now it's the top 2. So that's one thing that we're going to have to set a ticket for and then resolve along the way, but that's exactly what this process is for. And actually I found out that our quality tester had already found that issue, so I was a little bit behind the curve anyway. So folks, I've been scouring this app as Rare Game Robert, and not only is my collection currently up to $160,000 in value, but I also found a weird quirk that anytime I look up something really rare or obscure, like I looked up a Panasonic Q and like a Nintendo test cartridge, it's coming up with this right here, Agatha Christie, Irony of Ironies, the game is called, and then there were none. So there's some sort of weird quirk happening in the back end where it's rerouting to this Agatha Christie Wii game anytime we put in some rare and expensive obscure items. So we're not sure why that's happening yet, but it's a good other thing to put into our tickets. We're probably up to, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so tickets at this point of random quirks, which is pretty good because definitely better now. You think more than that? Maybe more than, maybe like 20 to 30 quirks that we now have as homework. Well, folks, after a solid few hours, doing little tests here and there, I would say we probably came up with like around 20 issues that are pretty minor, but that all need to be fixed at some point, not necessarily before the beta launch. I was really hoping to be able to like press that go button like maybe tonight or possibly tomorrow. It still is a possibility that we could tomorrow. Ultimately, I think the lead developer really wants to hone in on the scan feature, which is still somehow giving us headaches. For a while, it worked for us, but not for like Android phones. After that, we got it to a point where it was working on Android, but now like some iPhones can't do it. It's seriously been such a prolonged headache. But overall, I'm feeling fairly optimistic. That's really the final hurdle before we can actually push this thing out. We just don't know exactly how long it's gonna take. I just got a text from the project manager saying, "Hey Caleb, wanted to touch base, as my understanding is that you and the team identified a decent amount of opportunity during the testing session this afternoon, largely with iPhone scanning. That said, I'd suggest we reconsider our launch target for tomorrow. We can reconvene Friday to check in on our remaining work and set a day that feels good for the team." And I don't think that I was really super aware of this earlier today, but I'm feeling very impatient about this app launch at this point. Not because the team is doing a bad job. In fact, they're doing a great job of doing their due diligence despite my impatience. But the fact that I had no idea what to expect when I started this process, and I thought we were going to be launching like in December, and here we are early February, and we're not even at a point where we can launch the beta. I'm feeling frustrated because I want people to use this thing. I want them to get their hands on it and be able to make collections and send us batches. I want to open up boxes with quick flips invoices in them and get feedback from people in the Discord and get some sort of concrete reward for this 9 months of work that I've been putting in. And I know there will probably be some cynical people in the comments saying, oh, these people, they're just stringing you along and you're paying all this money and you're not getting deadlines, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is, I know a few things. One is that as hyper analytical and critical as I like to be in business, a lot of what business comes down to is doing your due diligence, picking your partners well, and trusting them until they give you a reason not to. So far, the dev team has treated me really well and gotten through issues really quickly. They are very aware that I'm not some large corporate client with an infinite budget and I feel all of these dollars. And they've been working really hard to get issues resolved efficiently when in reality, if they were working with a larger partner, they probably would have been identified much earlier on because they probably know what they're doing more than I do. Another thing I know is that I would be a fool ultimately to be paying this team so much money to not take their expert advice. And as impatient as I'm feeling right now and as eager as I am to get this in people's hands, I know that the best business owners don't measure success in days or weeks or even months, but rather in years and decades. And I'd be doing myself a huge disservice if I fumbled this thing at the 1 yard line and put out a product to people that didn't leave a good first impression. So even though I'm feeling disappointed right now, I will update you guys. Hopefully Friday we'll have a good number of the minor issues resolved. And if we can get this scan thing working, maybe we'll have a beta launch next week. Well, folks, I have some good and some bad news for you. The bad news is that it's Friday and we're not launching the beta today. Unfortunately, there's just one too many issues to work through. We're tentatively hoping for Monday, but I'm not getting my hopes up. The good news is this right here is a package that was sent to us from one of the moderators of the Discord. Shout out to Devin. And this is our first ever actual quick flips package. So we've obviously opened a ton. You can see over here, we've got a ton more packages from the old wholesale buy list program. But this one right here is the first one that has ever been done completely through the app alone. So I just wanted to capture this moment on camera. I don't know how different it's really. Here it is. Here it is, folks. Look at this. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Hold on, I don't want to get any info out here. Look at this bad boy. Oh my gosh, this was all automatically generated. Devin didn't have to do any extra work beyond just adding the games to the batch to get this thing. And we've got, look, it's so convenient. 10 items for a total of $335. Ooh, folks, one thing that I just noticed is that you can see there are a whole bunch of loose DS games in this bag, and I started thinking, oh man, we're gonna have to contact him about this and figure out what the price is gonna be on these. But then I remembered that with Quick Flips, one of the big advantages that you have is that we have actual loose prices now on loose DS games. So there's actually no communication that we have to do at all because he knows exactly the price that we can give for these things. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling better about this whole process than I have in a while. Definitely better than the last time you guys saw me. I guess at this point, all we have to do is get Devin paid and wait and see what happens on Monday. Let me know if you need anything. Otherwise, it should be good to go and nothing else needs to be done to allow folks in. Folks, today's the day. It is officially launch day for the beta of OneUp. I can barely believe it. This weekend, we finally got the scanner issues resolved, and it's working great across all different devices. I've got the launch message, I'm shaking a little bit, pulled up for both the Discord and an email ready to go out to our buy list partners. 9 months, folks. 9 months and 6 figures all led up to this. I was talking to Erica just last night about how this is so different from any other business I've ever done. All my other businesses have been very low risk and quick reward, right? Like starting a resale business, I was like, I'm just gonna go to a yard sale with 20 bucks and start listing stuff. And to start a YouTube channel, I just whipped out my phone, filmed a couple terrible videos, and posted them the next day. But building OneUp has been like, have an idea, then spend 9 months and 6 figures building it, and then 7 months in realize that a whole lot of people think you're an idiot and it's not going to work, and then spend a couple more months plugging away trying to get the beta version out, and now today finally hopefully start to see the fruits of all that labor. And honestly, folks, like looking at this message right now, I am scared. I have fears that people will be underwhelmed by the feature set. I'm scared that once we start onboarding a bunch of people, it'll cause a bunch more bugs and it'll be a bad first impression. And I'm even scared that my intuition, my idea in the first place was just not good enough to really convince people to use this thing. But ultimately, it's that risk that makes business fun in the first place. And to be honest with you guys, I'm kind of addicted to it. So here goes nothing. The next couple of hours were absolutely crazy. People immediately started downloading the app and using it. The Discord was instantly flooded with people joining and leaving feedback of things that we can fix or improve. We did have one issue early on with our system capping the number of users signing up at once. Then the following day, the app did crash for a few hours while we were fixing stuff, but in the first day, we hit over 140 users, and over 100 of them were using premium. The next couple weeks were a total blur. While our beta testers were busy breaking stuff, the developers were hard at work fixing it, and I could not have dreamed of how hard they would work, how responsive they would be to everyone's feedback, and how quickly they pushed out new features and fixes. While they were knocking out fix tickets, I was keeping a close eye on the email and Discord user feedback and adding users' ideas for new features to the pretty lengthy list that I already had. Then, as all this was happening, we started getting more quick flips batches people submitted through the app in the mail. Seeing people go through the batch submission process, which took us months to design and implement, and actually tell us how easy and straightforward it was, brought me so much relief I can't even tell you. And as we started to process those first batches, the developers started making more features live that we'd been working on for weeks. We made lots shareable to make it easy for resellers and collectors to facilitate bulk deals. Check this bad boy out right here. Share a lot feature. Haha. We added a bulk scan feature to make adding a whole bunch of stuff to a lot or quick flips batch much faster. And we created a system that allows our premium users who sell to us regularly to unlock free months or even a lifetime subscription. And I even ordered a ton of seductive OneUp hats to use as thank you gifts. Well, folks, today officially marks the final day of the OneUp beta test period. And as of now, we have over 200 users. And the craziest thing of all is most of them seem to actually really like the app. And as elated as I am about that, I have to say that it's matched with probably an equal amount of nervousness because of what I know has to happen today. Because folks, the reality is a lot of people out there just do not believe this app could ever be successful. And even if it is, and we bring on a bunch of users and people continue to like it, we've got a long road ahead of, first of all, trying to make back the money that I spent on this thing, and then trying to realize my long-term vision for it and build out the huge feature list that I have on my wall right now. But folks, I've got to say, at the end of the day, I did this. And whether the app is super successful or not, it's something that I'm just really proud of.